Hey guys, so today I'm gonna do a response to a very interesting person, let's just say, who you may recognize because he appeared in Chandler Wilson's video where there's a bunch of Tumblrinas talking about trans body positivity. He's very similar to the gender terrorist in the sense that he likes to draw a lot of attention to his appearance, in the sense that he's just a gay dude. He even still identifies as gay, but he likes to call himself non-binary and gay at the same time. It's weird. Anyway, let's just get into the video.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to a brand new video. Now today I want to talk about something that's quite deep and dear to my heart, and something that means quite a lot to me, and I just want to talk to you about my experience, and that is with my gender. So some people might not know, I identify as gender fluid.
Okay dude, whoa, slow down. I mean, I know I talk too fast sometimes, and people have critiqued me on that, and I'm trying to slow down the way I talk. But dude, are you on drugs or something? You talk at a mile a minute, man. Slow down.
Now what this means basically is my gender doesn't sit in one place all the time. So sometimes I feel more male, sometimes I identify more female, sometimes I identify more genderqueer, non-binary, like in this middle, and I float between these genders. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I really don't want to have anything remotely feminine or girly near me, and then other times I wake up and be like, today I want to wear lashes and heels and makeup and stuff. So you float between the genders, and I actually had quite a hard time coming out and actually coming to terms with it myself. And it's not just because I couldn't accept it, but also a lot of people in the community didn't believe me and still don't believe me to this day.
Maybe they don't believe you because there's no evidence or anything like that.
I made a coming out video about a year and a half ago, and I came out as gender fluid, and yeah, fair enough, I didn't explain it completely amazingly in that video, and I actually had quite a harsh critique from a lot of people inside the community saying, I'm not this, I'm just genderqueer, I'm just a gay boy in makeup, I'm just this, I'm just that. And everyone here was trying to define my gender, when it has taken me such a long time to understand my gender myself. Everyone thought they had the right, and everyone thought they were able just to tell me that I was wrong and I wasn't what I identified with because of the way I look. It's a really hard thing to be an outsider in a community that I love so much, and I am inside this community. I'm under the non-binary trans spectrum.
Stop with this non-binary trans spectrum thing. You are not under some spectrum. Your random identity is not the same thing as being trans. Get over it.
That is me. And just because of the way I look, I'm not accepted by a lot of people because, yeah, fair enough, I have a passing privilege, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's fair to ostracize someone who is inside your community.
So you're saying, oh, people don't believe me because of the way I look. No, people don't believe you because there's no evidence for this gender fluid thing. Also, you keep talking about passing privilege. How can you pass as gender fluid? That makes no sense. Even if passing privilege was a thing, you still can't pass as gender fluid.
When you identify as a non-binary gender, if you don't look androgynous, you're not taken seriously. People think you lie, and people think, oh, he's just doing it for attention. He's just adding labels that aren't towards him. When I came out and I had such a harsh critique about myself, I forced myself to look androgynous. I forced myself to wear makeup when I didn't want to. I forced myself to wear lashes and girls' clothing because I felt like I had to fit into this kind of gender stereotype. And it's really weird because after coming out as gay such a long time ago and accepting that and being so open about who I was, it was weird to have that feeling again where I had to fit into a category and I had to fit into this slot. It was a really weird, bizarre feeling. So when I first came out, yeah, I was wearing more girls' clothing. I was looking more androgynous all the time just to fit into this mold. But actually no, I am a predominantly male-presenting gender fluid person, and that's okay. So I'm okay with people asking questions and saying, what do I identify with? But when I explain it to people, don't then say to me, this sounds like you're this, or this is this, or this is this, and you're this, not that. Who are you to tell me what I feel inside? I know how I feel in my head.
What you feel in your head doesn't matter. What you actually are does.
And I identify as gender fluid. I'm not genderqueer. I'm not male. I'm not female. And just because, and also going on that, people say to me a lot of the time, so what are you today? What's your gender now? I'm gender fluid. That is my gender, regardless of how I express myself. I will always be labeled as gender fluid. That is the best way that describes who I am. And just because I'm more male one day doesn't mean I'm male. No, I'm still gender fluid. My gender is still gender fluid because tomorrow I could be on the other side of the spectrum. I'm not now suddenly female. I'm now gender fluid, like I'm just a more female presenting or male presenting. Like my gender is always gender fluid. It's never now suddenly I'm just male, because if I was male, I'd be male. I wouldn't be gender fluid anymore. To me, I kind of match it up to like saying to someone who's bisexual, who's with someone of the opposite sex, that they're now straight. They're not straight, they're still bisexual. Just because they're in like a heterosexual relationship doesn't mean they're now straight. They're still bisexual.
Okay, so whatever he was babbling on about was that he always identifies as gender fluid, even though the definition of gender fluid is supposed to be that you identify as male sometimes and female at other times. So he's basically trying to change the definition of gender fluid, which just shows that how vague all these non-binary identities are. These people can't even agree on what the definitions are. It's so vague.
Pronouns can be quite confusing for someone who is gender fluid because, you know, depending on how you're presenting or looking one day, people might think you're like she, some people might think you're like he.
But I just thought you said you were always gender fluid, not he sometimes and she other times. Can you just pick one?
So for me, I accept all pronouns under the pronoun. I just scratched myself in the face. I accept all pronouns. Like, obviously, if you call me she, a lot of people will probably get confused.
Well, I'm glad you're at least acknowledging that it would be difficult to call you a she, that there's actually some societal inconvenience with calling pronouns that you don't appear as.
And then you have to kind of explain to them what it is. But for me, like, I accept all pronouns. I always say to people, if you're ever confused about someone's pronouns, just refer to them as they, them, because it's a neutral, like, pronoun. No one will be offended. Like, if someone's offended that you called them they, them, then they're being a bit of a dick.
But it's not ridiculous that you identify as all these crazy gender labels? And also, isn't it a bit convenient? You're saying that, oh, it would be inconvenient to call me a she, but it's somehow not inconvenient to call you a they.
And also, like, never be scared to ask someone, like, what pronouns do they go by? Like, it's so much better to say to someone, like, you know, you don't want to misgender them and just be like, what pronouns do you go by? Rather than calling someone who identifies she, he. I just love that gender is such, like, a massive spectrum. And I know all these idiots are always like, I identify as an attack helicopter. Like, seriously, stop saying that now. It's not, like, it's just, well, it never was funny.
Well, I do agree that the attack helicopter memes and jokes have sort of grown old and they're overused. The entire point of those jokes is to show how ridiculous all of the non-binary labels have gotten. And the thing is that they're so ridiculous and they're so vague and they can just be literally anything. So if you can be gender fluid, then why can't you be an attack helicopter? Seriously, what is the difference between being some random label that you made up and an attack helicopter?
Just want, like, anyone out there who is struggling to understand their gender, please don't let your outer shell define anything about you. What you feel inside your head is something completely different than what you necessarily look like. Just because I look like a man doesn't mean I have to identify as a man.
But it's not about how you feel or how you identify as. It's about what you actually are. And the fact that you haven't expressed any gender dysphoria and any intent to transition indicates that you are a man.
And I just remember it being very, very difficult when I first came out because everyone was like, you are not gender fluid, you're just this, you're just that. And it's like, don't tell me how I feel. I know how I feel, so stop telling me what I should identify as. I even made a gender tag, like, before I came out saying I'm male and I'm not confused about my gender, which is another thing that I got from a lot of people when I first came out. They were just saying, oh, you identified as male a couple weeks ago. And it's like, I also once identified as straight and I'm actually gay. So at one point in my life, I was male and I couldn't understand these feelings I had inside and I couldn't really understand it because of where I lived and who I was around. I wasn't able to explore my gender.
So essentially you identified as male and then you got brainwashed, but now you're trying to backtrack. But, oh, well, I identified as male once in my life, but then suddenly I realized I was gender fluid. See, this is an argument that so many people who identify as non-binary make. They say, oh, well, I just didn't realize it. I just didn't know about any of these labels. Well, guess what? Actual transgender people, yeah, they didn't always know what transgender meant, but they didn't have to always know. They always knew something was wrong, even if they didn't know exactly what it was.
So when I was able to explore it, I was actually like, this is the feeling I've had inside for such a long time. This is what I felt. This is who I am. Don't be afraid to think that you change over time, because you do. Like, you discover so much new stuff about you as you get older. So I am a predominantly male-presenting, gender-fluid gay person.
How can you be gender fluid and gay? It literally makes no sense. The double think is so insanely, oh my god,
And I'm so proud of who I am, and I'm so proud of that, and if you don't like it, bye bitch. I am part of this community and I'm one side of it. And just because I look a certain way, don't try to push your gender ideas onto me.
Then don't try to push your gender ideas onto me. How about that?
So please comment down below, everyone, like maybe what kind of your labels you identify with, what's kind of thing that you identify as.
So to conclude this video, yeah, you're trying to claim to be trans because you haven't even explained why, because you like some feminine things sometimes and some masculine things other times, like everybody else. And by the way, the title reference for this video, in case you guys didn't get it, because I get it's kind of obscure, but it comes from the movie Mystery Men, which is a very hilarious movie, which I think you guys should all watch. It's kind of a cult movie about all these superheroes who have very unconventional powers. Anyway, there's this one superhero called the Shoveler, and at one point he goes up to his wife, and he's trying to convince her that he's a superhero, and he's like, I shovel well. I shovel very well. And the wife's like, honey, you're the best shoveler I've ever known, but that does not make you a superhero. And his little kid walks up and is like, I believe in you, Daddy. And then the mom turns around and goes, Roland, do not encourage your father. And so I just thought that was funny since this guy's name is Roland. Anyway, and I couldn't find the clip for that particular scene as much as I looked, so I thought I would have to explain it. Anyway, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.
Feel the funk blast!